So I'm gonna try to illustrate with one hand using a gardening hose, a hoe, and a shovel how I get clean gravel and separate that from this pile of, granted, it's crushed and purchased gravel, but one thing that you can also notice is that if you wash it, you get a bunch of clay or clay-like substance, and that is certainly not good for concrete work. And that is exactly what I intend to use this for, both the sand and the gravel. And you don't need a lot to make this. This is a cheap way to get sand and gravel. And the context here for me is that sand is so expensive for whatever reason that they don't typically sell like the cement, the concrete I have over there, ready mixed, and that's more expensive. And it cost me to get that concrete over where, because I live out, like you may tell, like it's in the middle of the nowhere. It's a far travel. So I have to order this pallets here to be coming over, and they are costing enough by themselves. So in order to get the most amount of volume for the least amount of transportation and whatever, I got this dumped right here in my driveway. And I'm almost done digging my way through here, so it's actually possible to enter again, and also so I can use the material for the purpose that I have all the casting and the material for, namely having a new basement, whatever. Anyways, so sorry for the ramble. Let me get into the basic mechanics. First of all, I needed to get space for this, right? It may not seem like much because there's not much left, but I had to get all of that over here. And I got the space for that by using the gardening hose, because as you're washing, and you will see soon, the clay in particular, it will just stay colloidal. Like this milky way it stays like this for over a day, right? It's not dissipating anytime soon. And in a construction, any type of particulate that remains as colloidal for that long are typically unsuitable for construction. They might be suitable for other things, and I do intend to use it for that. But without getting into a tangent, as this pit too, it goes through this berm, it goes through this pit, it settles in this pit, but it stays colloidal. So it's only the finest sand that will remain. That will not stay. It keeps going actually through under the house. So I have not a berm like this, but it's just pure rock. This type of rock to be specific. So it just goes straight through, and on the other side of the house, I'm not going to go and film it for the sake of brevity, but it's a few more deeper pits, and this stays cloudy until it reaches the main road, which you probably also cannot see from here, but yeah. So that's the persistent flotation that you will have with this kind of runoff, and these cannot be, you see, this is the clayey part here, right? There's like a thin surface. It's thicker in here, of course, because it's gathered, but the point is you can't really use that. But the sand will remain. So as it washes off, and you will soon see it washes off rather readily, it frees up a lot of space. And what I'm now doing is basically, you may notice perhaps that I have made these curvatures in here. And the reason for that is because I want the sand to pour over there. And then I simply, with the hoe, what is a hoe good for? Many things. Like these rocks here, I just washed it, just to be clear, for disclaimer. It looks like this, but I washed on the surface here so you can see that see them more easily. But these rocks, basically I just push them over as I wash away. The sand pours down, the sand and whatever, all the stuff I don't really want floats away. The rocks gather, and I scrape them over, right? And then it gathers up here. Now I've already scraped, so that's why I have to preface I washed. But basically you just run the hole lightly over. What you're seeing left is clay and sand that needs to be washed again. But basically, the rocks, they will gather by themselves, and then you know, eventually as the sand goes away, you know, all this washed away, the sand and the clay wash. The clay will go in all direction, by the way, because water goes in all direction, but the sand will nonetheless settle over there. And the rocks, they can be scraped up with relative ease and just pushed over here for the secondary process. And that liberates space for this pile here, which you may notice this one is notably more gray. And the reason for that is because I just dug it out from here. That's how I got the space. So now I'm going to show you how this pile and a lot more just gives me space to dig this more up and leaves me with leave me with more usable material, or at least something that I can measure. So one moment. Let's see if I can turn on this hose with one hand. That'll be skills. There we go. That looks nice. Oh, how nice that looks. So I dug from there up to here. So it's already been washed once. That's what my point is. So you can see it takes a bit of time, but it's been loosened up by the digging. So the trick is, far as I discovered, is that you try to let water gather on the top. As you erode it, you let water gather on the top. Sand and silt will maybe settling, but it holds the water. And the rocks, they may be washed, they may be whole, but as they lose their grip, they lock into each other. As you can see, the locks, I'm not sure if you can see, but the rocks, they lock in. So they kind of naturally gather. And you just remove the supports. So the kind of triangle here is volume of water, which you can gather, you know, by filling up on the top, and a momentum. Because if you do not have enough momentum, you might get, sure, the clay may wash away, but the sand not so much. And this is quite effortless, right? This is only a hose. And what I'm really doing again, so like if it starts to stall, so now you see I'm operating on the top, I work myself gradually downwards because it's going to hold water, much of the substance that gets soaked. And so when I remove the support below, it just goes. And then it gets the momentum. You see, it gets the momentum so that the sand gets washed away. Of course, you see also the rocks get moved. But notice here. Oh, sorry for the thing. Notice here. I can wash a lot. It doesn't do much because now it's just rocks locked in together. Exactly what I want for the construction, right? Here you see more of the sand and the clay, and it's knocked away by the momentum of the beam, and also water flow that has accumulated on the top. So then you just remove the surface again, because it digs. Like, let me show you here. I can do like this. It's like pissing through snow, right? Notice how easily it goes through. So it's not that difficult in a sense, but if you just go by it like you just saw, with that crack, you're going to find yourself having to wash many times over. You want this thing to collapse in volume, so you sort of like breaking a dam, basically. And you can see, so because you will have to wash this, you may have to wash this again, depending on how detail oriented you choose to be. The idea is that you want them to kind of sequester themselves naturally. So the third thing, right? So I said volume. Oh, getting wet there. I said volume, and I said momentum, and both of those are anchored in with gravity. And gravity is basically, for all practical purposes, in our case, it's a matter of inclination. So if it has a steep inclination, like you saw when I did here, steep inclination, it's, you know, and a lot of loose mass, it collapses quickly. You remember that this rock would not collapse quickly earlier But if I go below here, right, inclination is so steep it will, and when it does, right, then all the water that is gathered on top there and soaked in, all that weight, it goes through and it gains momentum. So yeah, that way you can, and so at the end you can just, like I showed you in the beginning, you just take the hoe and you know, she rubs, scrape over all them big rocks and leaves all them little pebbles behind or whatever. So this freshly piece now, I'm going to need space for what I dug here, and let's see, first I'm going to carve a path, because I don't want this to pour down here and mess up on this part. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually make sure that this part over here, it doesn't collapse under weight of water. And you can also, by the way, use the beam. If you keep it on the surface, one thing